Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 84, Meno 73c to d. Meno's first answer presented virtues as roles appropriate to types of people according to age, gender, and social status, but these roles could be bad if they were badly done. For example, if the woman ran the house badly, it would be hard to say that she had virtue. She would be the opposite of a virtuous woman by running the house badly. I'm giving the example that Meno himself gives, albeit unconsciously, because he does add well to his definition of the woman's virtue. In other words, it's not really the problem that Meno gave many virtues when Socrates asked for one, but that his virtues, or rather Gorgias' virtues, are dependent on being done well. And being done well means that how the things are done is what is important in virtue rather than what is done. As we've seen, Socrates asks a string of questions which leads Meno to the conclusion that we are good, when we are good, all in the same way, and that same way is that we use virtue in what we do. In other words, we do what we do well. Unfortunately, Socrates splits well into two adverbs, justly and sound-mindedly. And I say unfortunately, it's not really unfortunate. Socrates did this deliberately, but he does claim that he's looking for the one virtue, and he himself has split this virtue into two. Since Meno strongly agrees with Socrates' last conclusion that what we do in the same way with the same virtue, then Socrates might feel confident that Meno will now be able to answer when Socrates asks him again what virtue is. However, Socrates doesn't seem to be that confident. He deliberately returns to Gorgias. Epede toinon he aute arete panton estin, peiroe pen kai anamnesthenai ti autophesi Gorgias enai kai su metekenu. Since then the same virtue is of all, and notice Socrates says of all, not of all good people, try to say and recollect what Gorgias says this is, and you with him. In other words, you, Meno, agree with Gorgias. And we've already seen Socrates saying this before, that Meno shares Gorgias's answers, therefore they have the same opinion. We should be very suspicious of Socrates. If he was only interested in getting Meno to express his own opinion, following from the logic of the argument so far, why does he raise Gorgias again? Why does he require Meno to present yet another answer by Gorgias? Does it mean he isn't interested in educating Meno, or does he have another objective? I suggest that he does want to educate Meno, but the process isn't as easy as we might think. Anyway, this is Meno's answer. Ti alog e archein hoiont enai ton anthropon, e per hen geti zetes katapanton. What else than to be able to rule people, if indeed you're looking for one thing in all things? The ability to rule people is evidently one of the answers Gorgias gave for virtue, but it's now taken out of context and appears to be in this new context something which follows from the man ruling the polis and the woman ruling the household. The problem is that since the last time Socrates mentioned the man and the woman, he has since mentioned the child and the old man, and ruling doesn't really apply to them. And this is something that Socrates now points out. Alamen zetoge, al ara kai paidos he aute arteo menon kai dulu, archen hoio te enai tu despotu, kai doke soi eti andulos enai ho archon? Upanu moi dokeo Socrates. I am indeed looking, that is, for one virtue. But is this same virtue of a child and of a slave, Meno, to be able to rule the master? And would the ruler still seem to you to be a slave? It doesn't quite seem to me, Socrates. Socrates had asked Meno to recollect what Gorgias had said about virtue, and Meno does have a good memory. He remembers what Gorgias said. But it would have been better from the point of view of dialectic, surely, for Socrates to have asked Meno to recollect what has already been said in the conversation, because now Meno has given an answer which contradicts what they've been saying. It is not the case that to be able to rule people is a virtue common to all types of people. Even Meno himself understands that a child and an old man are not people who are able to control people, and that is not their virtue. So we see that recollection is an important thing to have, but it's also important to know what to recollect. Simply recollecting the opinions of other people with no connection between them does not seem to progress the argument. We do not seem to be getting nearer an understanding of the subject of the conversation simply by recalling what other people have said about that subject. It seems that Socrates has deliberately misled Meno so that he can then show Meno what should be done. Once you have raised some opinion, you should check it with what has already been said in the conversation. When Socrates asked Meno to recollect what Gorgias had said about virtue, he may have been testing Meno. It would have been better if Meno had said that he wouldn't say what Gorgias said, because now he realizes that he should be following the argument and should be working out for himself what virtue is. On the other hand, we may suppose that Socrates is prepared for Meno giving another reply of Gorgias, and that Socrates knows what this reply will be. It would seem that Gorgias had two stock answers for what virtue is, and now Meno has given both of them. Meno's first answer was the standard one, which refers to the virtues of everyone, but the second answer, where virtue is the ability to rule people, would have been Gorgias's answer to his students, the young, rich aristocrats who ask what virtue is. He has given them their virtue. This is their virtue. They are the ones who should be able to rule people. In other words, this is the virtue of a man, slightly differently expressed from the virtue of a man in the list of all those various virtues in the first answer. Meno's reply looks as though he has made the attempt to find something common between the virtues of a man and a woman, as if the man controls or rules people in the polis and the woman rules people in the household. But in fact, Meno is simply repeating the answer given by Gorgias, which was not intended to be the virtue of a man and a woman, but simply the virtue of a man. We cannot say that Meno is confused. He's simply doing what Socrates asked of him. He has given Socrates an answer which he has heard from Gorgias. He has a very good memory. This is what Gorgias said, but it is wrong on many levels in the context of this conversation. Not only is it not a virtue applicable to all, it is still on the same level as the first answer, which is to be expected because Gorgias at least is consistent, despite Socrates pushing the point that any activity is virtuous only if we add to it the qualification that it is done well. Meno has returned to giving a specific activity, and here not even saying that it is done well. Simply the ability to rule people is itself a virtue, as indeed was the case of the virtue of the man in the first answer. Meno had not said that the virtue of a man is to do the affairs of the polis well. He reserved well for the virtue of the woman. The woman had to manage the household well. In other words, Gorgias himself is consistent in his way. Given that Meno is the sort of person who likes to give the opinions of others rather than of himself, Socrates has manipulated him into giving an answer which is very wrong in the context. It's not wrong in Gorgias's context, but it is wrong here. And the two main problems with it in this context are that it doesn't apply to all types of people, and it again emphasizes the what rather than the how. And this has already been found wanting in the discussion after the first reply. Is Socrates simply misleading Meno in order to laugh at him? They are not in an eristic debate. Socrates has nothing to win here, and later on we'll see that Socrates himself says to Meno that they are not being eristic, they are being dialectic, they are talking as friends. Is Socrates then trying to show Meno that Gorgias is wrong by having Meno rehearse the answers that Gorgias gives and then refuting them? There may be something in that, but the main thing is to show that through finding errors and mistakes and then correcting them, one can eventually attain understanding.